Evening, folks. Virginia, Richmond, California. It's 9:04 in the evening. It is Thursday. I wish I had better news. Some of the videos that I've done was trying to talk about some of the situations I was running into. And one of which I'm trying to put into the YouTube right now. And the other one, I guess I'm going to have to be putting and broadcasting it on Facebook as well. I'm not looking forward to either one. No, because what I've done at this point over here, I think I've done more betrayal than I've ever felt like before. And now I'm feeling more and more like Judas. But I don't want my 30 pieces of gold or 30 pieces of silver or whatever it costs these days. In the light of trying to describe what the hell happened, some of you have been paying attention to some of the videos I've been talking about. The professor I'm dealing with, I've already labeled in that other video talking about what the hell happened. I know there's a lot of students over here have a different point of view than I had. And maybe and perhaps they're right about it. And I was acting way too prematurely about the situation I was getting myself into. Too much so. Where at this point, I felt like I betrayed someone. I could have betrayed Jesus again. Apparently he wasn't walking on water or healing the dead or making people well again or trying to preach on the mountain. It was a teacher just trying to do his job. And sometimes there had to be an asshole like me to remind him of a few things. I am of a different era, but that doesn't excuse my behavior either. Just because I was going to a college system over 30 plus years ago doesn't mean that I can't adapt to what's been happening these days. But apparently I wasn't adapting fast enough. And I feel like I just betrayed someone I just didn't even realize. The professor may have been loved by a few other students because they made him laugh, or there's something about him that the students can relate to. It takes a special teacher and instructor for that to happen, for students to actually feel something. Then again, they may not have. They may have saved something, I don't know. But when I feel guilty about taking an action like what I've done, I'm not happy about the damn thing, alright? I'm not happy about it at all. I'm not dancing up a storm. I'm not doing a jig over here saying, I got this, professor. I just wanted him to understand what the hell was going on. And I felt like there was no way for me to communicate that to the professor without me feeling like I was going to get targeted next. So I struck. I struck hard. I felt like I went to Caiaphas, trying to tell him about a different guy other than Jesus having an issue at this point over here. Cavell is just a professor of English who's been teaching students for a hell of a long while, a lot longer than I've been there, who has a knack of trying to deal with the students by trying to relate with them almost on a buddy-like level. He wants to make sure he gets his point across, however, he wants to make sure that he's friends with them as well. And unfortunately, an old fart that comes in and ruins his damn high at this point over here. Especially in a subject matter that pisses me off even further when I keep talking about it, but the damn thing I should be talking about it in the first place. I have to talk about it to a dean concerning about my own damn lifestyle. And it hurts like hell. I have used a lot of things for emotional crutches at this point over here, but the one thing I haven't used is my family at this point over here to the administrators, and I don't want to do that grief shit. Grieving, yes. Depressed, yes. But when I feel like my own dignity somehow is getting stripped away a little bit. Yeah, I got pissed off enough. Yeah, my ego got bruised. Yeah, my pride just got tweaked a bit. So yeah, I did something rather stupid. I had talked to his supervisors about it. I regretted every step of the way. If there was a way to talk to the professor as an adult one-to-one to explain things to him, it should have been the better way for between men. But this was policy and this was procedure. If a student has problems with an instructor, they're supposed to bring it over to the campus. And it's up to the instructors and the dean and God knows what else to investigate it, as long as they have enough data. They don't want to lose students, but they don't want to lose instructors either. I was trying to make that point clear. 30 years ago when I attended Pierce College, I was young and green like these kids were. 19-year-old stuck-nosed kid gets out of high school and gets into the world of adulthood. And he's supposed to act like a damn adult. He's supposed to be treated like an adult, except I got treated like a damn kid half the time, but because we were all damn kids at the time. We're 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Rarely did I see anybody older than myself as students in the classes. Constant flow of youth coming in front of the aging professors who've been trying to give their knowledge as best as they can to the students before they lose it. Everything done by rote or everything done by laboratory results. And wondering whether or not the students actually have any imaginations to come up with pretty interesting papers at this point to prove their documentation and to prove their thesis. And yes, there was a lot of them like that. Not many shooting stars did I actually see in my time. What drives me crazy is they go in and they go out. They go in and they go out. Students get whittled away down to at least a mere trickle few that actually survive the professors, who actually continue on with their academic career, the ones who are serious enough. Serious. And I had seen that in Paris. 30 years later, after kicking myself in the ass for screwing up 2.5 years, and then having a piece of paper saying I have an academic separation because my grades weren't high enough. High enough shit, they weren't even worth mentioning. The GPA was below a sewer line. And then feeling embarrassed every time there was kids who got degrees trying to be managers left and right at different places. And I'm an old fart who's worked my way up through different ranks to get knocked out left and right. Lay off here, lay off there, lay off here, lay off there. Times change, companies going downhill, companies going through economic fluxes. We just don't need you here. Either you've been here too long, you've earned too much money, or you're just not fitting in. Or else the company's going through economic hardships, we're going through a buyout and mergers here, and we have to make some changes. Story of my life. You go into retail and you find those with the degrees are having problems trying to become managers. Actually, when they do become managers, some of them prove to be ineffective because they don't have the experience necessary to do the job. And we're not talking about understanding company procedures. I'm talking about other things in life to make them worthy to be a manager that only School of Hard Knocks can teach. That was my issue. You have the School of Hard Knocks, but you don't have the pink slip. Actually, you don't have pink skin for it. You don't have the letters in front of your name or after your name that wouldn't matter a damn. BAs, MA, PhDs. A's barely, like, huh? And I've seen people like that struggling at Walmart's because the economy tanked, and all those with pigskins just couldn't cut it. Different jobs to get laid off. They're part of the flux. And they have to bag groceries left and right for survival. And I've seen it. I've been through it. Got knocked out of the workforce because of an accident. And everything else happening afterwards is, yeah, one big roller coaster. Back gets jarred. Neck gets twisted a bit. Because you have a supervisor with very little college, gets out of high school, and he's working his way. He drops a tire on your face. And after that, everything went downhill. And then, here's your paperwork, here's the last check, bye. You're lucky if you qualify for workers' comp or any disability. And you have to prove that. You have to constantly prove it. So yeah, I've been through the School of Hard Knocks. And then comes academia here, where you're thinking, maybe now I can try fulfilling something like I screwed up on it. Maybe I'll be able to do something about it. Somebody talks me into it. I go back into it. My family, when they were alive, encouraged me to continue on until they passed on, leaving me stuck carrying a hell of a lot of baggage. And still I have to press on. So I get into a situation of academia where I'm just busting my ass left and right, and then I run into a professor that has issues, and he doesn't even aware of it. So natural for him that an old fart like me who's come through the ranks, different ranks, has issue with the professor and finds himself out of the class because he can't deal with the professor's style. Too programmed of what was back then. Can't get with the program of what is. Saw lines and saw borders and boundaries, but couldn't adapt fast enough. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. And still feel at times. There's an old fart deal with the young, also younger professors who you're trying to teach them, but they're also trying to teach you other things as well. And if you're lucky enough, you can try developing somewhat of a relationship with them to build upon the student-professor without breaking boundaries. But when you have a professor trying to break those boundaries, not even realizing it, his jokes hurt like crazy. And his way of getting to students, even though they like it, the younger students don't like, may try to understand it or maybe not, I don't know. But this old fart of a dog doesn't like it, so I have to bark at his supervisors for it. And then I have to wake up like I'm Judas going to Caiaphas. How's that grab you? So yeah, confessional time. Everything in a letter to Caiaphas. And also a plea to be merciful. Because I understand what a professor is trying to do, trying to educate and teach the class. But when he targets individuals for his own pleasure, for his own amusement, and maybe for a quick chuckle, sometimes those things hurt. Either one grows a thick skin about it and goes about his day, or it still gnaws at him like crazy. It gnawed on me. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this tape video. See, I'm an old fart. The digital media these days, we call it taping. Not vlogging, but taping. Old style, old fart, old centuries. And I'm not quite sure how the hell I fit in anymore. But I still struggle with the information out there, and I still try to convince professors I'm still trying to study and do my job as best as I can. But it hurts like hell when I see the image in my head of a particular professor who's just trying to educate the students and trying to be a smartass, and sometimes failing miserably at it. I relate more and more to Judas every day. I think about it. Worrying about where my pieces of silver are coming from and how much am I getting out of it, a damn thing. I relate more and more to the humiliation that Judas feels. I don't relate to the Christ figure. I relate more and more to the screwed up person who couldn't communicate very effectively to his rabbi, his teacher. And now the student's got to backstab his teacher. And the problem is with Judas, he was more in tune and more in love with the professor. We're going to be throwing that damn thing out. Judas is more in love with Jesus. But I'm not with the professor. At least I haven't professed it. I wanted to get into the class spirit. I wanted to get into the class, understand where the professor was coming from. But to make a target of a student just to satisfy a professor's whim, that's not right. Yeah, it could have been resolved if I talked to the professor about the damn situation. Then again, there could have been repercussions afterwards. I've heard of things happening like that. The higher educations, and not to mention the community colleges. I've heard horror stories. And I never thought of being one of those. Call it a confession, call it a confession. I mean, it's probably what it is. But I really didn't want to have anything to ruin a person's career. I really didn't. You know, the professor may be okay in what he's been trying to do, trying to teach English. I mean, if he was just teaching regular English, right? It's an extracurricular activity, or just an extra credit thing that you would call science fiction class. In teaching things like that. And I think it would have pissed off the instructor even further if I was trying to tell him, like, look, some of these things that you've been talking about, they've already been covered in the past, and you haven't even been covering that because of what you've been trying to deal with at this point over here. These students have no idea, no concept. Us old farts would have the concept. But in trying to communicate that to the professor, it's like, why even bother? Because he's going to be belittling and deriding me again. So you're seeing the flip flop I'm having at this point over here. To put him into a weird, unusual example at this point over here, Anne Bradstreet. Who is she? A Calvinist. Long time ago, in another English class, I'm learning about her poem, Flesh and Spirit. Who's the flesh and who's the spirit? Or of two particular gentlemen in the Calvinist time when they were settling in the quote-unquote New World, Bradford and Morton, two head-to-head rivals going bonkers. One's more strict and the other one's more let loose. And the dynamics of that. It's weird how my head tries to make sense of all of this. Because anything related to college experience I'm going through relates to the next class, relates to the next class, relates to the next class. They all become relative. How to explain this to the students of the young? They need to develop age and they need to develop context in their own way of trying to identify things in life so it does make sense to them. And how is joking around in the classroom supposed to accomplish that in the first place? Calling a person by the wrong name all the time? Or even going after the guy's hair? Because it amuses him? The flip-flops. But this is what I've been going through the past 2 or 3 days. I'm not liking it, I'm not happy about it, but this is what's been going on. And I can't say if I'm clearing off my conscience at this point over here regarding the situation, because I really don't want the guy to get his ass canned from the college. Maybe if there was a way of having a meeting of the minds with the professor, and if I happen to take a class again for the 3rd time, am I going to be learning my lesson rightly this time, or am I going to be screwing this one up as well? Because I don't want to run into the same situations again. I mean, twice already been burned. First time I was caught unaware, and second time I've been more aware of it, and yet hoped maybe, and then nothing happened. So now I have to make a fool of myself, a jackass, by saying stuff like this. And it's not easy for a student to make this kind of admission to anybody else. Are you kidding me? If I was a younger student, I don't know what the circumstances would have been like, to tell you the truth, because I never ran into circumstances like that when I was a young kid. And granted, when you're going through grade school all the way through high school, you don't question the instructors like that, because you get your asses canned. Kicked out of school, get your asses royally reamed by your parents. And that was a reality. But when you get into college, you're supposed to be expected to deal with it as an adult.
Well, there's no way in hell in the grade school all the way through K-12 that they taught you anything concerning about college life or how to be an adult in that situation. There was no way. There's no college courses for that damn thing. It's life. You had to learn on the way. Back then, compared to now, totally different situations altogether, totally different atmospheres altogether, totally different schools. And it's just context and maturity. Context and maturity. You get older, you get wiser, you get crotchetier in your old age. You expect things to be done one way and you can't be open-minded enough to go through the other stuff. Unless, of course, you're forcing yourself to be more open-minded because there's a lot of things that you don't know of. And I know there's a hell of a lot of stuff out there that I didn't know of. And when I'm going through the courses, it's like mind blown. You're dealing with adults in an adult situation. One-on-one, being able to talk to them concerning about the context. And you happen to deal with a professor who's still trying to deal with grades kindergarten all the way through 12. Trying to deal with them as kids. Trying to relate with them as kids. And that's the hardest damn thing. Because they're trying to be adults about things and you're dealing with them like they're buddies back in high school again. And that's the perception. That's the perception I'm looking at. That's the perception I've been dealing with. So this hasn't been easy for me to talk about. Not to anybody else of my friends who have been going over to college. Because now I'm going to be feeling like I'm the stigma at this point over here. I am the Judas. Because I dared to betray a professor. And that also humiliates me, humbles me, and puts me back into the same situation. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, you're screwed either way. So what I would do, be pissed off and be angry at the world or everything else at the same time? I look at the guy and I'm feeling sad about it. Because I feel like I'm Judas all over again. And the thing is, I got the context to understand that particular portion of it. I understand what it is to be Judas. But Judas was a hell of a lot more intense character than I give him credit for, because he's dealing with a guy he loved. And I don't have that feeling or relationship with a damn professor at this point over here, except feeling sorry for him because of a damn family situation. Income matters these days. Any other kind of situation, I may not have given a rat's ass about it. Just drop kick his ass. But something about the son of a bitch. If he wasn't the way he was, I'm not picking on students, but just allowing them to give them the solicitation that they have, give them the ideas, what they know of, and try to help them understand more, encourage them a little bit more. What's wrong with having a professor like that? I've had several like that going to college. But this second turnaround. And I can relate with them because I'm not a kid. I'm an adult. I'm on their level. I'm damn near on their age level for some of them. And we've chewed the same dirt. We can relate. But in dealing with a young kid coming out of college, that's another thing. Because I can try relating with that. Can't relate with their experiences, what they've had going through K through 12 in their lifetime. I know my lifetime. Maybe somehow I could try helping out with the kids on this one. But there are certain lines you just don't cross when you're an instructor. I'm sorry. And that makes me as an old fart. Maybe I am a bit closed-minded in this situation. The students have to follow certain guidelines and certain rules and regulations. We all see this on every damn syllabus. We see this in the paperwork that we fill out. We have rules, we have regulations, we have conduct of behavior. And we all have to fill out and agree to. What about the damn instructors as well? Don't they have to have the same damn shit? The contention, the flip-flop going on. The constant battle. Who's right and who's wrong? Who's Jesus and who's Judas? Who's Caiaphas at this point? Caiaphas would be the school administration. But the guy is not Jesus. He's just a man. And I don't want my pieces of silver at all.